All right, since there wasn't a whole lot of time to go over problems from 9.8, I decided to show you 3 of them. This was one like one that we did at the end of the period today. What this one says is you got a regular square pyramid, which means the base of this pyramid is a square, with the altitude py and the slant height pr. ID, it tells us, is 14, so I'm going to label this in the picture. And it also tells us py is 24. Okay. So the question asks you, find AD, YR, PR, the perimeter of the base, AMID, and the diagonal of the base, not shown. So before I even start, these 2 things caught my eye, and this directly relates to section 9.7. The base is a square. So if it's a square with sides 14, the perimeter of the base is just 14 times 4, which is just going to be 56. Okay, so 14 plus 14 plus 14 plus 14, 14 times 4. The diagonal of the base we just talked about as well. Okay, if this is a square, if I draw that diagonal, this is a special right triangle. This is a 45, 45, 90 triangle, which makes the diagonal 14 root 2. So already I should get 2 of these 5 answers relatively quickly. The rest of the answers, you got to think about this problem in 3 dimensions, and what you have. And this problem is kind of nice because it gives you the picture. It doesn't have you provide it. We'll actually go through one that you need to provide the picture for. But you got triangle Y or YPR or PYR, whatever you want to call it. It's got a height, an altitude of 24. YR is 7. Okay, YR is 7 because this whole side is 14. And if you split this up, each little piece is 7. So YR is going to be 7. So before I start, I think that's one of the answers I wanted, which was 7. Okay, AD, the other answer I wanted, is going to be 14 as well because it's a square pyramid. All the sides are going to be all 14. Okay, so it's a square base. All the sides of that base are 14. So that should be pretty straightforward. The last question is PR, and again, now that appeals to this blue triangle right here that I kind of shaded in, and that is a right triangle that's got legs of 7 and 24. And if you're paying attention today, that's a 7, 24, 25 right triangle, and you know that is the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse, or the slant height, is going to be 25. So that was number 5 from section 9.8. Let's move on. Number 6 from section 9.8 has you provide it. Okay, so I had pre-drawn a pyramid here. So it says in the problem, find the slant height of a regular pyramid, square pyramid, which means again the base is a square. If the altitude is 12, so let me draw that altitude here. This line here is 12. And one of the sides of the square base is 10. So now the question is asking you, what is the slant height? Well, now you got to know a little bit of terminology. The slant height is the height of the face, right? So this is the slant, H-E-I-G-H-T. Slant height. So now you look here and you got a right triangle. Okay, the height of this right triangle is 12. This part here is 5. It's half of 10. And again, remember, if you split this side, each piece is 5 and 5. Okay, so this is a 5, 12 blank right triangle. The slant height is going to be 13. And if you guys were struggling with these, hopefully looking at the picture and trying a couple of these, looking at these, hopefully helps. These are a couple basic level questions, so I wanted to make sure that you got these, a little bit of help with these if you were having trouble. Because if you couldn't get past these, the next one I'm going to do is kind of difficult. So there's the number 5 and 6. Let's move on. Number 22, a pyramid is formed by assembling 4 equilateral triangles and a square base having sides of 6. So looking at this problem, yeah, I already had a pyramid drawn. So draw your pyramid again, and you can pause it at any time. And the question says, find the altitude and the slant height. So what I have here is a situation where all these edges are all 6. And I want to find an altitude and I want to find a slant height. So this is a little bit tricky thinking about it. So all these sides are 6, so all the faces are equilateral triangles. So if I think about this being, we'll call it a lateral face. Okay, lateral faces are the faces that are not bases. The lateral face is an equilateral triangle with side 6, right? And if you think about the lateral face, the height of a lateral face is referred to as the slant height, okay? And if you're like struggling to see this, basically what I did here is I took, let's say we took this side, and then I just kind of like cut it out and put it right there. It's equilateral, it's got all the sides 6, and then the height of that side would be the slant height of the pyramid, okay? So, let me kind of erase what I just did so it's not confusing when we go back into the pyramid. But looking at this thing, we just talked about this. These are special right triangles. This would be 3, and then the slant height would consequently be 3 radical 3. And if you're like, what are you talking about? Well, it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle because it's equilateral. Okay, and when we derived the relationship between 30, 60, 90, the sides in 30, 60, 90 triangles, we used equilateral triangles to do that. So this triangle here is 30, 60, 90 with hypotenuse 6. Therefore, short leg is 3, long leg is 3 root 3. So the first thing is let's find the altitude and the slant height. We'll make a list over here. The altitude we haven't found yet, but I did find the slant height, which was 3 root 3. Okay, so now going back into the pyramid, I need to find the altitude, which is this line here. I know the slant height. We just found it was 3 root 3. So this becomes a right triangle. So again, the right triangle inside the pyramid. Very important to see. This side is 3. Again, because it's half of 6. This whole side is 6, both sides are 3. So then I get a right triangle that is 3 by the altitude, which we'll just call h. And then the hypotenuse is 3 root 3. So I'm just going to do a quick Pythagorean theorem. 3 squared plus h squared equals 3 root 3 squared. So, So then I get 9 plus h squared equals 3 root 3 squared, which is 27. So then I get h squared equals 18. Square root both sides. H, this breaks down into root 9 and root 2. So that h equals 3 root 2. I don't want to do that quickly, so if there are any steps in there in that Pythagorean theorem that were like, what did you do? Just pause it, do it in your calculator, figure out, but I got h, the height, the altitude, oops, I don't want to put that there. The altitude, which I already have a spot for, is 3 radical. So my altitude is 3 radical 2, my slant height is 3 radical 3. I hope that helps. 3 problems from section 9.8.